Steven, out of all the Nintendo content, we know you have a special place in your heart for Nintendo.
Oh, yes.
Was there anything that particularly impressed you?
I think I like Splatoon more than Victor did.
Yeah.
There's a novelty to playing a third-person multiplayer shooter made by people from Nintendo, and there was already a slickness to the way that it plays and a solidity to the core idea of kind of mixing in this weird painting and parkour type combination in a shooter. So yeah, that was fun. Smash Brothers, I'm not a fan of, but everybody here at the show is a fan. I guess
everyone else,
me.
but Steven.
And it will be
they all
huge
seem
for
to be
them.
loving
Yeah.
it.
It will be enormous, yeah.
So yeah, I think that stuff. The Amiibo thing, the Skylanders thing that they're doing, I don't quite get that. And
It's a good point.
yeah.
We haven't talked about that, and I feel that was something that a lot of people you talk to don't understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
How it's different than Skylanders or Infinity, or sort of how it links to Smash Brothers.
I think the main difference is that it's a first-party Skylanders,
Right.
so it's going to be able to connect to a bunch of different types of games in a way that we see Activision only connecting the figures to an annual succession of games. But I talked to Reggie about this, and what will you do, what will you not do? And immediately they're not unlocking new characters with it, which was,
Right.
I think, could have been one of the concerns. Can you not play as Mario in Smash
Right.
unless you have the Mario figurine? Thankfully, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
He's an additional Mario, I think, is sort of how you should think of it. But they don't have a lot of details with that, and that's been a thing for a number of the Nintendo games and projects shown at the C3. Star Fox, we saw only the tiniest sliver of a very primitive version of Miyamoto's Star Fox.
Yeah.
Splatoon was only a very tiny sliver, it felt like, of whatever that game might actually be.
Is that
And
2015
the
as well?
Amiibo, yeah,
Yeah,
Splatoon is
I
next year.
assume
Yeah.
everything is 2015.
Okay, all right, okay.
Be more right
I
than
mean,
wrong.
yeah, I think Amiibo's supposed to be this year, but I think you're right. There's something interesting that you said about Amiibo, because Smash Brothers, it's a very hardcore game, and these
Yeah.
figurines are usually for kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see sort of how that relates, and I guess, Mario Kart would be a great fit for something like that.
I love toys still, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to have all these little figures of these characters that I've grown up with and love. I think it's a very
There's a
shrewd
little
move.
Batman toy, then you
They just need to work out on that.
Exactly.
We're into the Marvel space now with Disney Infinity. I think this is all a great way to go. But with Amiibo, though, we're not really playing the direct representation of these characters that we're buying, though, right?
Right.
They're
Maybe
more
not yet,
AI characters,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Which
And-
that's
and-
weird.
And I think it's interesting because you see Nintendo, we all kind of thought, well, why weren't they doing these NFC figures 2 years ago? You
Right.
got it embedded in the gamepad, but
Yeah.
Nintendo, for better or worse, and often frustratingly, is very slow to adopt new business practices. And you've seen their approach to DLC. What's the 3DS game where you can haggle?
Rusty's Real Deal Baseball.
Right, which I think is a really playful, inventive way
You
to
and Steven
deal.
set that up earlier.
Exactly.
He
Talking
loves
about
you
it all
Rusty
week.
Real Deal baseball.
And that's an inventive, playful way to deal with this new business transaction, which Nintendo is slow to. They don't really exploit their audience in a way that Nintendo probably could.
Right.
And I think looking at the figurine stuff on a very base level, the fact that it works with more than one game, I think is Nintendo also acknowledging that on some level, like the way they sell these toys on a yearly basis, and you've got to buy these brand new ones.
Yeah.
It is exploitive of kids and wanting to collect these things.
Right.
And Nintendo's still getting in on a little bit of that greedy game, but it does seem to be a little more reserved take on it.
I
They
think you're
have to. They have to be that way. I mean, that would just tarnish their image 100%. They've got such a huge brand message. They're the interactive Disney, right? They can't screw that up.
Let's remember, this is the company that just put out Super Mario Brothers 3 on Virtual Console for 3DS and Wii U on the same day and charged you for each download to each of those
I
systems.
will exclude Virtual Console from the conversation, because otherwise I will just
They do
devolve into
gouge.
madness.
And that's
do
more of a
gouge the
technical
faithful.
back end, though. I don't think that's. I think they just
Technical
can't figure
back
out
end.
how to make it work across both
The lack of a
platforms.
cross-buy on Wii U and 3DS is ridiculous.
I know cross-buy absolutely has to happen. And honestly, how can these guys, both Nintendo and Microsoft, not have a PlayStation Now competitor? I
Right.
mean, how
Yeah.
can they not be?
Well, that's one thing
working
as I
on
said
that?
to Klepek before. I think PlayStation Now got a lot of attention this week, but I don't think people really realize how different that's going to be from a business model perspective.
Totally.
And as you said, Xbox and Nintendo not even commenting on streaming games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if PlayStation Now, and I don't think this is going to be the case, but imagine if that was just an automatic part of Plus, right?
Yeah.
That's not, I don't think that's what they're doing.
Well,
And-
imagine if that's PlayStation 5.
and yeah,
I mean,
right.
that was the exciting
Like,
thing
you don't
for
need
me
to have
about
the machine
PlayStation
anymore.
last year when
Right.
they announced the thing in February. They didn't even show us the box.
Right.
It felt like PlayStation is mind share. It's not a physical object.
Right.
And that's kind of what PlayStation Now embodies. It's like, well, this
Yeah.
is the way we're going to send you stuff. You don't even need a console. You can just hook it up through your TV.
Right, and that's something that I asked Reggie about when I was talking to him, because we've had readers and even some of our writers have talked about, why doesn't Nintendo go with maybe a more Netflix type model for their back catalog? They have a bigger back catalog than anybody else.
Yep.
So if they have a lack of current games, they could exploit, to use the business term, the fact that they have more great old games than anybody else does, why not let people pay a subscription rate?
I would
and
do that.
play all
I don't
these
think that's
games?
even exploitative because then it's not you're buying Mario 3 for
Yeah.
the 9th time and then not realizing it because it's been 2 years since you did it.
Would you like to know what Reggie's answer was?
Yeah, well, and this is
Nothing
why
to announce.
Yeah, this
but
is,
that's a nice idea.
really
this
like
is why
it,
they
you
don't
buy
have
it
press
9
conferences
times.
anymore because we tell them how to run their business.
If you buy Mario 3 9 times, you get the 10th one free on the next console.
Yeah, I know it's true, right?
So all said and done, what is your? I mean, you're not rating a press conference. You're probably rating kind of Nintendo's
presence.
E3 story. What would you say?
They needed a lot more stuff for this year. I give them a C, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Steven?
I think that the difference between having a press conference or having a pre-recorded thing is immaterial to people who aren't here.
That's mostly us.
They're being they're right. There is no difference. It's all being live streamed. It was a really entertaining presentation. They may not have had as much content for now as they should have, but in terms of, so maybe a B plus in terms of content.
Right.
In terms of presentation, an A. It was a very fun show.
Wow.
Klepek?
You announced a sequel to Kirby Canvas Curse, the best game that came out on DS.
Right.
You're getting an A in my book.
Okay, wow. All right.
Wow.
That's all it takes.
There was a
He's
lot
right.
of.
You know.
He's
See,
right.
you know.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you don't want quantity. You guys want
I
quality.
wanted Kirby Canvas
You
Curse
wanted
too.
okay.
I got it.
All right. Okay.
Boom.
All right.
Moving
Sometimes
on.
it takes that one
Okay.
game.
Maybe that's that one game. There you go,
Okay.
Iwata.
And I'm bumping mine to C plus because of the tournament. I think that was a really smart
Okay.
idea. Was that fun to host that?
It was awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the fact that there were that many fans that showed up. I think a lot of people I talked to around the industry were skeptical how many fans really come out for something like
Yeah.
that. And when you saw those 3,000, 4,000 fans lined up in the theater, the energy that was there was amazing. And it made me sort of sad that they couldn't walk over the hall and then actually play some of these games. and
Right.
Play Smash.
That's the
Brothers,
future.
but We'll
You
see.
know, I will put money on it that Nintendo will do some kind of traveling thing.
Yeah.
Bring
Well,
Space
Evo.
World to
They'll- right.
you know,
Bring Space World back. There you go.
to North
Space
America.
World.
You know, I think that'd be
Expo.
awesome.
It'd be amazing. All right, well, when we come back in the bonus round, we're going to talk about some of the other third-party games. What is the game of show? You'll find out from our panel on the bonus round.